Now that the editing session is over, if I scroll through the catalog window, properties for this, scroll to the bottom, I can add a new field here at the bottom, or I have the option of adding a field to the end of the table through the table options. So let's go ahead and do that since I've got it open. Let's call it South American. And just for the heck of it, we'll give it all the rest are double. Actually, we might as well just match that. And so we're adding a new field to the end of the table that'll show up in a minute. Let's scroll all the way to the end, and there is South American, and it is in fact a number field. We can run statistics on it, but it's currently empty, therefore the null values. So let's go over to A74033, the original version of that. And remember, we looked it up in the data dictionary. There it is. So I've made a note of that name. We're going to use that A74033 to populate this new field. As I said, there's no way that we can change a text field to numbers. So we had to create a new number field and perform operations on fill it using values from the original. So let's fire up field calculator, and it'll give us the usual error message. It's probably wise to run this in an editing session, so we'll do that. It gives you the undo option. And the option to bail completely out of the edit session if you make things worse for yourself. So right click, field calculator. The first thing I'm going to do is select the Python option to run things. Going to click on show code block, and now I'm going to find that little snippet of code that I wrote earlier that I showed you in class. So load, and it is there. I think that's the right one. And yeah, well, I've got a couple of others. I've done a couple of versions of this. Yeah, I'm going to find a different one, the one that I actually worked on, and put in the correct place for you. So that's an earlier version. So let's see, 11 Rival Nations Project, 1920. There we go. And this is the version that's available to you in the projects folder on our G drive. So again, I'm defining the function here called remove null, and this is the value that goes into the function. Each and every individual value from this column, if it's none, in other words, if it's a null value, we replace that null value with whatever we specify here. And we decided in class it's not correct to replace it with a 0, so we're going to change this to minus 99999, and then that's going to be the value that goes into this new field. And if it's null, and if there's actually a number in there, then we just put that number in there. So here's where the real action happens. In the bottommost window here where I'm pointing, South American, the field right here, is going to receive values from, and I've got to find it. That's why I had to write this down, A74033. It's very tedious work, but fortunately you're only doing 5 to 7 variables. And if you're lucky, maybe you won't have to do this at all, but I suspect that you will. So I found that, I double click on it and insert it in between the parentheses here, and so we're good to go. I'm going to hit OK, and the magic happens. and it's gone through and populated the South American field with the missing data number that we just designated, and it's good to give it something distinctive that we can use in a little bit. And where there are actual measured values per county, they show up. So we haven't artificially introduced zeros where they don't belong, and we should be good to go with that. So let's I've done two things. Okay, I'm going to do one more field calculation. I'm going to do it on a third field just to show you another option that doesn't require you to create a new field. So we are going to go back to the data dictionary. I've got one picked out, A8W, yeah, A8W, I did this in class yesterday, A8W002. That is various categories of farms and who operates them. And as you probably know from your American history, basically slavery was abolished, but in effect it continued through the practice of using sharecroppers. And I'm not sure what these different categories are, but I'm going to focus on sharecroppers, and we're going to take a look back in the table at the sharecroppers field and try to make maps of that, because that will maybe help us identify some southern characteristics. So let's go through the table. A8W002, there it is, and it's got a mix of nulls and actual numbers. Let's take a look at it and see if it's a text field again, or if this actually happens to be a number. And our first clue that it's a real number is statistics is available. Let's take a look at it under properties, and yeah, it's already a double precision floating point. And let's just keep it in place. We don't have to create a new field. We're still going to run the field calculator on it, but we can do the work in place. So let's call it this, rename it Share Croppers, and that will show up in the header. That'll make it easier for us to make maps. Right click, Field Calculator, and it still remembers the code that we used last time, and at this point it's still it's saying, all right, I am going to calculate, I'm going to take, what I want to do is I'm going to take the values from this field and run it through the logic of this little code snippet here and change the values, but put them back into the same field. So let's get rid of what was here from last time and scroll all the way down here through until we find A8W002. So there that is. So here's where the action happens. A8W002 is going to be calculated by this little remove null function, and it's going to replace the values in place in that same field instead of creating a new column. So we're good to go, and just like magic, the missing values, the nulls, are replaced with -99999. Alright, so let us take a look at making a map of that. I think we're just about ready to, yeah, I think I've done everything I wanted to show you. So you've got approaches here to, if your original field is text, you're going to have to change it into a number and create a new field that's a number type and populate that field. If your data of interest is already in a number format, you can run the field calculator in place. So let's take a look and map up something. I'm going to run properties, get it out of the way here a little bit. We're going to make a graduated color map. let us take a look at, yeah, it sees the aliases here, so there's my sharecroppers that I just ran, and it has identified these numbers, the missing value number, and we're going to do something special with that in just a minute. I'm going to first of all make it into, there are many ways. This is absolutely not the best way at all for you to portray this data. I want you to figure that out for yourselves. Most likely it's going to be manual breaks, something that makes sense to you for your data type. I'm going to bump it up to 6 classes. I am going to, the quickest, dirtiest way to manipulate and give a special color for the missing data value is just in this first panel, but you can go through the classify window and do some stuff with that. I hate all those decimal places, so I am going to do format labels, significant digits, take it down to just showing the thousands and hundreds, I guess it'll be. Yep. All right, and it looks like it's rounded to all right, so I am gonna do this, and I'm just manually going through and editing the labeling here, and I'm going to give the -999 a special color. Double click on it, and I'm going to give it a light gray. Okay, and so the missing values will show up in gray. The real data is going to show up in this particular color ramp. You can use others, of course, and if I haven't messed up too badly, it'll show up like so. And I like it. So sharecroppers are concentrated in the south of the Mason-Dixon line. The Mason-Dixon line runs along here, and it appears to have been a practice confined strictly to the south as of the 1920 census. Places where the question wasn't asked, I guess is the correct way to view this, are shown in gray. So that, I believe, will get you going on everything, and thanks very much.